All right, let's get right into it. Picture this. It's 1879. A new play opens in Copenhagen, and the final sound the audience hears is a door slamming shut. Now, that might not sound like much, but that one sound, it literally echoed through history. It was a sonic boom that challenged everything people thought they knew about marriage, about a woman's place in the world. We are, of course, talking about Henrik Ibsen's incredible masterpiece, A Doll's House. Wow. Just like my father, he too has treated me like a doll. That line right there from our main character, Nora Helmer, is just devastating. It's the absolute core of this whole story. So the big question is, how on earth did she get to this point? I mean, what could possibly push a wife and a mother, especially back in the 19th century, to realize her whole life has been, well, a performance?
So to really get it, we've got to step inside her world, what seems like the perfect little doll's house. I mean, from the outside looking in, the Helmar family is the picture of success. You've got Nora and her husband Torvald. They've been married for 8 years, they have 3 beautiful children, and life is pretty sweet and comfortable. And things are about to get even better because Torvald just landed a huge promotion. He's now the bank director.
And this really gets to the heart of the problem, the huge gap between how they see their lives. You see, on the one hand, you have Torvald's vision. He calls her these little pet names, like his little lark or his little squirrel. They sound kind of cute, right? But what they really show is that he sees her as, well, a pretty little thing to own, not an equal partner. And this wasn't just him. It was a pretty common view at the time. But then there's Nora's reality. And her reality is that she's carrying this massive, life-altering secret.
So what is this big secret? Well, believe it or not, it all started with an act of love. A few years back, Torvald got incredibly sick. We're talking life or death here. The doctors basically told Nora, look, his only shot at survival is a long trip south to Italy, where the climate is warmer.
But there was one gigantic problem: money. The trip was going to cost 4,800 crowns. Now, to you and me, that might just be a number, but back then, that was an absolute fortune. It was way, way more than they could ever afford. Suddenly, their whole perfect life was on the verge of collapsing. So, Nora, totally desperate to save her husband, decides to take matters into her own hands. And this is where things get really complicated. First, she manages to get a loan. Okay. But second, she does it entirely behind Torvald's back. She tells him the money was a gift from her father. And third, and this is the really dangerous part, to get that loan, she had to forge her own father's signature on the paperwork because he was literally on his deathbed. So for years, Nora has been living this double life. She's secretly working odd jobs, saving every single penny she can to pay back this debt, all while keeping up appearances. But her past is about to catch up with her, all because of one person, a man named Niels Krogstad. And here's the kicker. Krogstad isn't just the guy who gave her the loan and has the proof of her forgery. In a twist of terrible luck, he also happens to work at the exact same bank that Torvald is now in charge of. You just can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, the situation is not good. Torvald is all about his reputation, right? And he's dead set on firing Krogstad, who he thinks is some kind of morally corrupt guy. But Krogstad, fighting for his job, has the ultimate trump card, Nora's secret. So he basically backs her into a corner and says, look, either you convince your new boss husband to let me keep my job or I tell him everything. The blackmail is on.
So now Nora is completely trapped. She tries. She really does. She pleads with Torvald, but he just won't listen. He just waves away her concerns like she's being silly. There's this last-ditch effort where an old friend tries to step in, and Krogstad actually has a change of heart. But it's too late. He's already sent the letter, the one that explains everything. And it's sitting right there in their locked mailbox, just waiting. And this is when everything just completely falls apart, and it happens so fast. First, Torvald gets the letter. He reads it. And his reaction? It's not, oh, my poor wife, what you went through for me. No, it's pure selfish rage. He calls her a liar, a criminal. He's only worried about how this is going to ruin his good name. But then, almost immediately, another letter shows up from Krogstad, basically saying, never mind, we're good. And just like that, Torvald's mood does a complete 180. He's all smiles and forgives her, thinking, great, we can just pretend this never happened. But for Nora, nope. The damage is done. The illusion is shattered forever.
Because in that one critical moment, she looked at him, and she didn't see a loving husband. she didn't see her protector. She saw a total stranger, a selfish man who, when the chips were down, only cared about what other people thought of him. She finally realized she was married to someone who had never, not once, taken her seriously as a human being. And what happens next is maybe the most famous ending in all of modern theater. Nora sits Torvald down, and for the first time in 8 years of marriage, they have a real, serious conversation. She lays it all out for him. She tells him that she finally sees that her whole life has been a lie, that she was just passed from her father's control to his, like a doll, something to be played with and admired but never, ever respected. You can just feel the shift in her. It's this profound transformation. Just moments before, she was her husband's doll, her father's doll, living her entire life just to please other people. But now she understands that her most important duty isn't to them, it's to herself. And to figure that out, she has to leave. She has to go and discover who Nora actually is, away from being wife and mother. And about that slammed door, to really get why it was such a big deal, you have to put yourself back in 1879. A woman leaving her husband and her children, that wasn't just frowned upon, it was unthinkable. It was seen as an absolutely scandalous, unforgivable betrayal of everything she was supposed to be. In fact, the ending was so controversial that Ibsen was actually pressured into writing a different, happy ending for some theaters that just couldn't handle it. So this all leaves us with the giant question that Ibsen basically threw at his entire society, a question that honestly still hits home today. Is it okay for a woman to leave her sacred duties as a wife and mother to figure out who she is as an individual? See, A Doll's House wasn't just some play. It was a cultural bombshell. It sparked a conversation about identity, about marriage, about personal freedom, a conversation that more than 100 years later, we're very much still having.